Welcome to the Sheridan Report on the Gruely Crew Sports Network. The Sheridan Report is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. To get up to a first deposit bonus up to $300, 100%. So if you put $300 in, you'll have $600. If you put $200 in, you'll put $400 in. If you have $100 in, you put $200 in. If you put $20 in, you can't do that because you get a deposit at least $50, which gives you $100. I am your host for the Sheridan Report, Mike Goodfaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in the Grand Poobah of the Sheridan Report, the Grand Poobah himself, Bobby Sheridan. How you doing, Bobby?
Hey, Mike, I'm doing great. I'm in a good mood. When baseball is doing things that are good, I'm in a good mood. We caught a couple really nice dogs yesterday, and we fell just short of really, really having a great day in baseball. I mean, we had a good day, a solid day, a moneymaker, but had the Red Sox not blown a 3-run lead in the ninth, that would have been really nice. And had the Cubs, could the Cubs have just won that game, which, hey, they got beat. There was no sob story here, but it was all set up for 3 nice dogs in a row kind of parlayed together. But we'll take a solid win, Mike. The Mets win last night made me feel good, and hey, a top play at plus 180. So that was the Padres. So, we're getting a little bit more confident with our baseball and a little bit more consistent. And let's start off with baseball, Mike.
All right, Bobby. Let's start off with baseball. What do you got?
Okay, let's go over the 3-team mix and match parlay. Yesterday we were 3-1. We added the Phillies, if you remember, and we had all 4 of those suckers until Boston decided to just blow the game, and that's disappointing. But let's see if we can come right back and hit these 3. We've got 3 for you, and I'll talk a little bit about them. But let me just first give them out. They got the Phillies at 4:05 Pacific, the Giants at 4:10 Pacific, and the Orioles at 4:05. So these are all 3 going on right at the exact same time. And it's been a while since we've had that, so maybe that'll be a good omen. Aaron Nola with the Phillies is back to pitching like an ace. He had started the year off a little less than what his standards were, and he's come back and pitched really well. And the Phillies had a nice comeback win yesterday for us. We added them in, if you remember. They gave up a 3 spot in the first and then shut it down. They did just enough, won 4-3, and I think this one they'll play from the head in this one. Aaron Nola is pretty stingy, and if he gets out of the first today, I don't expect the Cardinals to get more than a couple runs. They might pop a home run, but they're facing a pitcher in Genesis Cabrera who, he's an MLB rookie, and this is a tough spot for him going up against Nola. So I think the Phillies can continue this winning ways against the Cardinals. The Cardinals, they're struggling a bit, Mike, and they're not getting consistent offense from some of the guys they need it from, and they've altered their batting order, which, I don't think they wanted to move Carpenter out of the leadoff spot, and they kind of forced to. And so they're going to have some issues today scoring some runs. We like the Phillies. We like the Giants, which, that hasn't been a great thing this year for us. We've caught them a couple times. And, Mike, I look back up. The times we've caught them and been right with them have been on the road. We have 1 win with them at home. That was a nice moneymaker for us. It rounded out a nice day. But they have failed in maybe 4 or 5 other times at home in spots that I liked them. But on the road, Mike, we've hit 3 out of the 4 times that we've really, really touted them. And today's not really a tout. They're part of a mix and match, but I like them today. They've hit better on the road. And they're facing Pablo Lopez, who has struggled for the Marlins. We've bet him twice this year. He's failed to come through. We're going to bet against him today with the Hall of Fame battery, Bumgarner and Posey, and I think they can get a win here at Miami for us and keep our parlay alive. And then finally, we're going to finish this off with a left-hander that was good to us yesterday, the left-handers, and John Means, Baltimore Orioles, playing better baseball, not always resulting in wins, but they're getting more of them. Okay, they're playing about 500 over the last 8 or 10 games, and John Means gives them their best shot as a starting pitcher. Solid left-hander. If he finishes strong here in the first half, could be an all-star candidate for Baltimore. They have Trey Mancini, who will probably get that, and that'll probably be their only entry in the all-star game. But we like John Means a lot, Mike. So there's your 3-team mix and match. Can we go over the straights now?
Can we go over to straights now? Well, see, this is the reason I laughed. You said, can we go over to straights right now? And there is an article that I was just reading on the internet that says the end of women's sports. Biological male wins NCAA women's track championship. That's why I laughed when you said that. But go
ahead. All right, Mike. I like talking about these games, and it's important to me that the listeners have an idea. Those that I think listen a lot, I think are confident in the work I'm doing. I think they know that I'm putting time in and that I understand and have a philosophy about betting baseball. But I like the listeners just to give them a little tidbit going into the game, and I think that's good for them rather than just spending 30 seconds giving the games. I mean, that doesn't mean much. So I like to give a little reason, a little example when we can. And there's the top play we got going today. It's the Cleveland Indians and Shane Bieber. This is a future all-star as well. This is a right-handed arm that is amongst the best in the game. There's probably 10 right-handers, if there's 10, let's just say, amongst the whole 30-team MLB with a right-hander with 2 years less experience. This guy would be top 10 out of probably 50 or 100 of those guys. And Shane Bieber is going to give us a quality start today. And Cleveland scores 7 runs in the last 2 innings yesterday to pull out an improbable win. The Red Sox had all their pitching lined up, did everything they needed to do to win that game, and failed to hold on to that win. Well, now today they're not set up. And, Mike, it's not just the one loss that it gets you. Yesterday they dropped a game that they should have won, but they had all the pitching lined up, and they dropped the game. Well, sometimes that rolls into the next day and costs you a game too. So I was really looking to play Cleveland here in this spot. If the pitching matchup, that first 6 innings matchup, if it favored us, and it does, Bieber over Ryan Weber is a strong lean towards Cleveland. And if we get to the bullpen late, again, I certainly like Cleveland's chances. So I think they can win both parts of that 2-part game we talked about. Now, steroids baseball, the long ball plays a role. But see, here's the thing. Shane Bieber not giving up the long ball. Awesome stuff. Great stuff. A 10-plus strikeout possibility today in Boston. So I like Cleveland, and so does the betting. When I looked at this last night, I put it on the sheet. They were plus 105. They're now minus 112. So you can do one of 2 things. Go ahead and just roll with them. Lay the small price. Go with it. It's a top play. Or you can work it into that mix and match area. You might 2-team or 3-team part of it with a couple of the others you like out of my mix and match. You might roll it into Mike Hockey, which he'll talk about in a little bit. You might take it to 1 or 2 of the other straight plays I'm going to give you. There's 2 more. So there's that one. I like Cleveland. That's my top play. You still got time to get Pittsburgh in. That game was supposed to already gone off, but it now has a restart time of 11:30 Pacific. So your area there, Mike, Cincinnati's got some little bit of rain.
There's a good chance that they're not going to play that game.
Okay, well, I do have a restart time now, at least of 11:30. So maybe there's a window to start it, then again delayed, and then finish it. That's kind of what I'm seeing.
Because I'm looking at the weather forecast. There's like 60 to 70% chance of rain the rest of the day and evening.
Okay, well,
can you bet on rain? Can you bet on a rain delay or a rain out?
Oh, that would be good if we could, huh? Sometimes those guys are wrong, though.
I know, they're wrong all the time. That's why I think there should be odds on it.
Yeah. Well, today's matchup, in short, is you have a left-hander Brault going against Cincinnati, which I like that. I like a lefty against Cincinnati if I'm betting against them. And then I like a righty against Pittsburgh if I'm betting for them. So we have the matchup correct. And that's because I think a lot of the depth, a lot of the, for Pittsburgh, a lot of good left-handed hitters to go along with their stars, Marte, and Bell's a switch hitter. But I like the left-handed hitters. I'm saying so these guys get to face the righty today, DeSclafani. And then I like the lefties going against Cincinnati, Winker, Dietrich, Votto, kind of neutralizing them a little bit. So we get the pitching matchup in our favor. Pirates bullpen can definitely lock down the end of the game. And the Reds took game one, so I think Pittsburgh comes back and takes this one. The Reds may have taken game 1 and 2, huh, Mike?
I think they lost.
Put you on the
game one.
spot there.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Was that a doubleheader?
No, not. Oh, wait a second. I'd have to go back, guys.
I think
do
it
so
was.
much.
They had played a Tuesday
Yeah.
doubleheader, I think, and they lost the first game and won the second game. I don't know. What else
Yeah,
you got, Bobby?
Well, I don't want to leave it at that, Mike. Let me just find it real quick, if that's okay. We had the Pirates yesterday, just because I like to be thorough. I do a lot off my head when I call you. Reds and Pirates.
So what you're saying
Yeah,
is
the
when you
Reds
talk to me,
yesterday,
you're not that accurate. Go ahead.
11-6 Reds yesterday. So we knew that coming off of that. Pirates 8-5 on Monday. And Reds 8-1. Yeah, so they split Monday, Mike.
Yeah.
Pirates and Reds split on Monday. That's right. And then yesterday. So this is the fourth game here. So the Pirates need to win this to salvage the series. And I think their bullpen's lined up and has the matchup in their favor. So that's 11:30. I like that as a straight play as well. And then we'll give you one more. And this one's a value play. And I'm coming right back with the Mets tonight. Syndergaard and Buehler. And the thing about Buehler is the Dodgers overall are just overvalued. They take the field, and they're going to be 20 cents probably higher than they should be. Okay? So you're getting value playing against him. Now, Syndergaard has not pitched like a $15 million pitcher or whatever he makes. He is a high-dollar guy. He has not. But he has capabilities. There's an X factor part of him that he can control and dominate a game all by himself, including with the bat. So I'm looking for one of those kind of performances tonight on a big stage. I think he's definitely capable of delivering that. And when you take a plus 180, sometimes, you need something outside the box a little bit, and he can deliver it. Now, can the Mets hit some home runs? Yes, they can. Walker Buehler for the Dodgers is a young, all right, we talked about Bieber of Cleveland. He's in that category, a top 10 right-hander, 2 years less experience. Walker Buehler does not walk people, which is a good thing. Throws a lot of strikes, but, his ERA is in the mid-threes, and he doesn't give up a lot of whip, walks, and hits for any pitch. He's about even, or a little over, which is a really good stat. But he's given up some runs, and that's because, the long ball is a factor. He throws a lot of strikes. So if the Mets can hit 2 home runs tonight, let's say, and Syndergaard gives us that X factor outing we're looking for, we could absolutely have the lead 5-3, 5-4, 4-2, 5-2 going into the 8th and 9th. And the 8th and 9th, they held on yesterday. They could hold on again today. So I like the Mets at that price, and it's come down a bit, down to plus 167, which I think is the right move. I think taking that value is the right move tonight. So Mets maybe could finish off the big night because they're the 7-10 Pacific game, 10-10 East game. And there's your baseball, Mike.
All right, Bobby. You want to go to NHL before we go to tennis and then on this day?
I do. Give it to us, Mike.
What do you want me to give to you? Oh, the NHL. All right.
Yeah.
Sometimes I forget what I was doing. All right. The Boston Bruins tonight will look to gain a commanding series lead when they meet the St. Louis Blues in Game 2 of the 2019 Stanley Cup Final. Game 1 did not go that well for me. The Bruins rallied from 2 goals down to get the 4-2 win. And the thing that really stands out to me here is this. Number one, the Bruins have not lost a game since they trailed Columbus. They've won 9 straight games. And the other thing that stands out to me here is St. Louis has not won in Boston's TD Gardens since November 22nd of 2016.
Wow.
That's a long time. But see, what my dad would always say was this, like if Johnny Bench is coming up the bat and he's over his last 15, my dad would look at him and say, it's all right, he's due. So they're due to win a game tonight. Of course, the other thing is
Absolutely,
this.
Mike.
On Monday, you had unlikely heroes that powered the comeback by the Bruins, guys like Sean Curley, who came up big in the opener. He scored the go-ahead goal, added an assist also. Curley had 2 goals and 5 assists coming into the playoffs, while defenseman Charlie McAvoy also scored just his second playoff goal of the game, or to tie the game at 2-2. I think I think the way these two teams play, it's usually whoever wins the game is going to look like the dominant physical team, because whichever team plays the most physical wins. I think that the Blues took a lot of stupid penalties in that first game. I think they'll clean that up here. And I think the Blues, behind Vladimir Tarasenko and Brandon Sheen, are going to win this game 3-2.
Oh, Mike, that would be a really good final for the people who have followed you. You know, you're getting plus 150 now on mine. Do you have yours pulled up?
It's plus 145 on mine.
Okay, so you're a good, nice, medium dog in a championship atmosphere. That would be a great final, and I've already done it. I've taken your advice, and I've done a couple things with the Blues, and we've got a grueling truth parlay I want to read out right now. Then centers around your Blues. It's the only dog I put in this, and here it is, Mike. I used the Giants, the Orioles, and the Phillies. That was my mix and match 3-teamer. I threw in the Indians. That's a top play later. And I threw in tomorrow's Raptors, okay, on the money line with your Blues. That's the only dog out of those 6. And that 6-teamer for $140 pays $6,700. So I don't know what the math is there, but it looks like it's about 4-1 or something, more than 4-1, about 5-1. Maybe between 4 and 5-1. So that's the official grueling truth parlay. So the bottom line is, if we get those first 5, we'll make you a Raptor fan tomorrow night. That'll happen.
Who are you
Hopefully
talking
we
about,
can
me?
get that.
I'm cheering for the Raptors anyway.
You or the fans or whoever you is.
Okay.
Anybody that plays it. I've got it. And so I'm just throwing it out there. That's the grueling truth. Official 6-teamer.
Alrighty, Bobby. What else you got? I know you got a little ATP to talk about before we go on this day.
I do, Mike, and a quick NBA blurb as well, and I want to give that right now. I've been doing a lot of reading and just looking around, and I like to do that as we head into series or head into situations. And there's a stat I came across, and it involves Marc Gasol of Toronto, who's going to be. They have 2 X factors, in my opinion. It's Marc Gasol and it's Siakam that can totally tilt the series in their direction. The other Golden State's got a couple as well. Iguodala, Looney, okay. But we've got Marc Gasol I want to talk about. And as we entered the playoffs, he entered the postseason. His efficiency differential, I'll tell you what that is in a second, was higher than every single player who played at least 500 minutes. The only other guy who was more impactful to an offense per 100 possessions was Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is out for Golden State. Now, that's allowed Golden State to be like the old Golden State from 4 years ago, and that's what was able to beat Houston.
Either Golden State works.
Well, excuse me. And Portland. Yeah, either one works, right. But that was, but the Golden State without Durant, okay, that just goes to show you how good Durant is, though, which nobody needs to know. But I don't think anybody knew Marc Gasol would be second. And their offense, Toronto's offense, has scored 12.8 more points per 100 possessions with Gasol than without him, okay? Which means, the way this guy wrote the article, the Raptors played like a 74-win team with Gasol and a 35-win team without him, if you compare the numbers. So this guy has made a huge impact, and it's not just with points per game and such. It's because the way he moves the ball and passes and finds the right people. They run through him, kind of the hockey assist kind of thing as well. Those are big numbers, Mike, and this guy has also been a defensive player of the year before. So maybe a guy like Looney or Draymond Green, they might come up against a little different animal in this series than they did against Portland, that's for sure. So just something else to think about as you are heading into Game 1 tomorrow night. Okay, ATP. I'm really happy with ATP. We made some money yesterday, and we have a big shot to make money today. And I'm going to give you an update. We're 2-2. We had 5 matchups today, and so we're up like about $70 per 100 bet on these matchups going into our last one. And our last one is sitting right now at 4-4 in the 5th set. We're on a plus 200. Herbert over Pierre. If we lose, we drop to 2-3, and it's like a minus $30 day or something like that. But we've got a chance to make 270 if Herbert wins. And it's 4-4, tied at 40 in the 5th set. So maybe by the time we get off the air, by the time you're done, if you're on this day, I'll give the listeners an update. But let's get some karma going for Herbert, and that'll make the early risers a nice winner today through the ATP.
All right, Bobby. On this day today, I think we're going to talk a birthday. Eric Davis. You remember Eric Davis, don't you?
I remember him well. This was my era too, Mike. And you had told me that he was your favorite player, and
he was one of my favorite players. On that team, he played on the 90 Reds. They're all my favorite player. That was my favorite Reds team. I grew up in 75, 76, but you expected it. And the thing about him, they drafted him in 1980. He was from, I think, L.A. He was also a heavily recruited college basketball player. And the big thing with him would be if there were no injuries in his career, I think he goes down as one of the greatest players that ever lived, because I saw a stat that over a 162-game period spanning July 11th, 1986 to July 4th, 1987, he batted .308, an on-base percentage of .406, a slugging percentage of .622 with 47 home runs, 149 runs scored, 123 RBIs, and 98 stolen bases. And when you look at that, the other thing that always stood out to me was this. I went to a ton of Reds games between 1975 and 1993 or so. And I remember the first Reds game I ever went to, they played the Cubs, and we sat up in like right or left field. I think it was right field. Reds Cubs. This was 1976. George Foster hit a home run in that game. First home run I ever saw live. And it sounded like a gunshot, because you remember he had those long, he was built a lot like Davis, where he was long, had the long arms, the long legs, and it was like a whip when he'd crack that bat around. And he'd hit the ball, and it sounded like, a missile went off or something. And the only other time I heard somebody hit a baseball and it sounded like that was Eric Davis. And I remember second game of the season, 1988, the St. Louis Cardinals were playing the Cincinnati Reds. I think Chris Sabo was a rookie that year. And I remember that year, I went to Plant City, Florida with my mom and dad. My dad was going down there to look at sailboats because he loves sailboats. And we went to St. Augustine, and then we ended up dropping down and going to Plant City. And that year, Chris Sabo, never heard of him, but that was the first time I ever saw him. And he was wearing like number 66 or something and wasn't supposed to make the team. But he ended up making the team. And I remember second game of the season, 1988, I went with my dad to the game, and our seats were right behind home plate. And this was like the second section. These are good seats. And I actually found a ticket stub the other day. It was like $8. And these are like great seats. We're sitting behind there, and you got the beer guy walking down the steps, get your cold beer here. Eric Davis fouls the ball straight back, and it just misses the netting, and it hits this guy, and he's probably about 15 feet from where me and my dad are sitting. It hits him in the shoulder. And when it hits, you hear this loud crack, and then you just hear this dude go, oh, shit, and he drops to his knees. There's beer all over the place, and the ball had hit him in the shoulder, and it sounded like he'd been shot. But that was the main memory I have of Eric Davis and what he did there. And then you go to 1990, Game 1 of the World Series. You remember you had the front of the Cincinnati Enquirer after Game 1 was Davis stuns Goliath, which was Eric Davis comes up in the first inning and hits a home run, I think it was to center field, off of Dave Stewart, who was supposed to be unbeatable in Major League Baseball's postseason. He had been the year before in 1989 against the Giants and the Red Sox. And he hit that home run. It changed the whole series. Jose Rijo comes out and throws a great game. I think the Reds win 7-0 or 7-1. And go up 1-0. Then they win Game 2. The cool thing about that series is, you remember Billy Bates?
Yeah, he played at Texas, I believe, or Oklahoma. He was a college player.
Yeah, he played at Texas. He was a Texas Longhorn. And in the 1990 World Series, they brought him up. And it's still, I think, the only hit he ever had in the major leagues was he is going up against Dennis Eckersley, and he hits a little chopper down the third base line, beats it out, and he ends up scoring the winning run in Game 2 of the World Series when Joe Oliver hits the line shot down the third base line. Also, I think it was Game 4, Eric Davis got hurt in that World Series. The Reds ended up leaving him behind because I think he was diving for a ball and ended up, I think he punctured his lung.
Yeah, I was going to say that or lacerated kidneys.
Yeah, it was one of the two. It was a lung or a kidney. And when you looked at that, I mean, if the Reds lose that game, you'd have been missing Eric Davis. You wouldn't have had Jose Rijo again until Game 7, you know. And the thing is, Paul O'Neill said that Davis was the best hitter, best runner, best outfielder, best everything that he ever saw. And one of my favorite moments with him was in 1986. You remember the Ray Knight game, the Mets and the Reds?
Yes.
Okay. And he ended up with the big fight at third base. And Davis, from what I hear, is still bitter about that. And he's bitter about the Reds' treatment of him after his World Series injury because they had left Davis behind in Oakland after the series and requested that the Reds provide a private plane to bring him back to Cincinnati. Davis claimed that he was refused a number of times and he made his own way home after the hospital released him, which to me is bullshit. But that's Marge Schott, because Marge Schott was a disgusting old racist bitch anyways.
Yeah, when you were describing that, I immediately had her in my head. That was Marge Schott. And, yeah, she was that and not a good person. And
no,
I could see why, whether that's true or not.
And this is the thing. The Reds won the World Series in 1990 because she wasn't afraid to spend the money. But the thing is, since 1990, the team was run into the ground because she didn't care about the minor league system at all. The minor league system went to absolute crap. You also got, the dog that shits on the field, Shotzi. I mean, she would take the dog around. He'd just be pooping on the field. I mean, we're pre-game at the World Series. I'm sitting up in the right field stands, and this dog's just taking a shit down the third baseline. And I'm like, I mean, everybody. And the thing that was bad is nobody around us was shocked because it happened before every game. You actually had somebody out there with a pooper scooper cleaning up the dog shit because Marge Schott's dog had free reign. She's also the one that said that I think Adolf Hitler had some really good ideas. But
yeah,
and
she's
then,
awful.
And then, that was 1990. That was Operation Desert Storm or Desert Shield at the time. And she wanted to get out there and say a prayer and thank all those soldiers over in the Middle West that are fighting for us.
Yeah, what a despicable lady, and that's all that I had heard too. And she fought for Pete Rose, I'll tell you that.
Well, hell yeah,
Pete
because
Rose
scumbags stick together.
I thought you might say something.
Hey,
like
Lucas,
that, Mike.
we know that the NBA Finals starts tomorrow, not today.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Lucas
I was
just,
just
put
giving a little
for
tidbit.
your information. We were just talking about it.
Yeah, just throwing a little blurb in there. We're gonna, hammer it home more tomorrow, and everybody knows I'm gonna go with Toronto on Game 1. I mean, we've been touting that all week, and we've got them in the series at plus 255 and such.
Yeah.
But just a little tidbit.
I would like to bring this up, Lucas. I think the Raptors win in 3.
Is Lucas going to be covering the game tomorrow? I'm sure he is, huh? He'll be there.
I have no idea. Lucas will probably be too excited to cover it. But okay. He says that was aimed at Steve Risley. Ha ha. So, yeah, because Steve, if you're listening, Lucas said, "Let's go Raptors. The NBA Finals starts tomorrow, not today." Just an FYI. I don't know what that means, but
I understand.
Maybe on Survive in Advance,
Risley used
tomorrow. And Survive in Advance will be on later today, probably around 5 or 6 o'clock, because Cole Hannock can't be on the show until then, so the show will be then. So make sure you check that out. And Mark,
Mike, they'll be live? Did you say it'll be live or it'll be posted?
Sure, it'll be live. Nobody will know the difference.
Okay.
It'll be on the website around 5, 6 o'clock, something like that. We're going to teach Steve how to use a computer, and once we do, he can do it live.
I wanted to say something real quick on your Eric Davis that I thought was just really interesting, but I wanted to wait because I didn't want to interrupt you. It's not often, and this is a nice pat on your back here, talking baseball with somebody. It's not often that you will hear somebody talk about the sound of the bat, the sound of the ball hitting the bat. There is a sound. Some hitters have a sound that is just like a shotgun, like you described it. And there aren't many around. And it's just different. And unless you're down there and you're right there, you don't really know what that means. You might think it all is the same. It's not all the same. And that was the bat speed that he had. And I just really appreciated you talking about the sound. I didn't know that about him, but you did. But I knew that in baseball. I've heard that myself, that sound of the bat. And it doesn't surprise me that he was one of them. He was a 5-tool player when they used to talk about scouts' ranking system. A 5-tool player, meaning he had major league tools above average, meaning like solid major league tools.
Yeah, but you know what? Everybody they call a 5-tool player usually ends up just being a tool. I've heard that so many times. Cal Daniels was also supposed to be a 5-tool player. He wasn't.
Yeah, well, what that means to some of the fans is that he can hit and hit for power.
Yeah,
run,
but it still scares me when I hear that. You know what else scares me? When they tell me that an NFL that a defensive lineman has a great motor. That usually means that he's not very good, but he's got a great motor.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But, if you were to compare today's guys, now, they might hit and hit for power for sure, on the steroids baseball, but the running, the fielding, throwing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on, he's stealing almost 100 bases there.
Yeah, I mean, those are all areas now that have taken big dips. I mean, some of those guys look like they can't even move. They're so bulked up and buffed up. It's just crazy.
Well, the other one, to me, if Eric Davis wouldn't have gotten hurt, the closest thing I've seen to him talent-wise, or he was the closest thing talent-wise I've seen to King Griffey Jr., somebody that could just do everything.
Right. I would agree with that. Different bodies for sure. Eric Davis was wiry. He was the classic baseball body, maybe 6'1", 180 pounds lean. Skinnier type.
Oh, I remember in college at Indiana State, I had the 44 Magnum poster. You remember those posters they'd put out?
No.
Come on, they had it for all the teams. I forget what they were called. Lucas wouldn't know, even though he's listening, because Lucas is too young. But, yeah, I remember I had an Eric Davis 44 Magnum poster, had an Eric Davis jersey, and then in 1990, my team won the World Series. And since then, none of my teams have won a freaking thing.
Mike, and that was Lou Piniella taking that team, from Rose, and and just doing a great job with that. And you and I have talked about this before off the air. That was the Nasty Boys, right?
Yeah, it was the Nasty Boys.
Norm
It was
Carlton.
also the Reds.
Yeah.
They brought Pete Rose back in August of 1984 as a player manager. They had sucked in 82, 83, 84. They weren't real good. They started the season off real quick and then kind of went to crap. But in 85, second place finish. 86, second place finish. 87, finished second. 88, finished second. 89, they dropped to fifth because Pete Rose was a scumbag, and once he got his ass caught, the team kind of fell apart. And then I don't think that it's any coincidence after basically 4 out of 5 second-place starts, when you get an actual grown man, an adult, in the room, they win the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, Lou Piniella, we all know what he did there, and he went on to be a great manager in a couple different places.
Yeah, Seattle, he did a great job. Won like 116 games one year, didn't he? Wasn't that his team?
Yeah, most wins. Yeah, most wins.
And then I want to bring this up. I want to bring up Billy Hatcher, because Billy Hatcher had hits in 9 consecutive World Series at-bats. I just wanted to bring that up, just because I don't think anybody has ever done that since, and I don't know that anybody ever will.
Wow. Yeah, I agree there. Billy Hatcher, wow. There's been some good talk, Mike, surrounding that World Series, and that was the 3rd World Series in a row that Oakland went to. Remember, in '88 was the Gibson year; they were upset, but '89 was the earthquake year. They beat the Giants. This is the 3rd straight for La Russa and that group: Canseco, McGuire, Eckersley, Ricky Henderson. It was a big upset. Big upset.
In '89, they only lost, I think, 1 game in the playoffs, because in '89, I think they won the ALCS against Toronto, didn't they? Or was that 90 that they beat Toronto? 90 they beat...
I think that was 90, Mike.
90 they beat the Red Sox. They beat the Red Sox in 88 and 90. In 89, I think they beat the Blue Jays.
Okay, I had it the other way, but I'm sure you're right. Yeah, good stuff, Mike. Appreciate that. Appreciate all that information regarding, Eric Davis and the Reds and everything that rolled into, and to give you the fans an update on the ATP match. Okay, these guys have been playing for 4 hours and 5 minutes. Paire, P-A-I-R-E, against Herbert. We got Herbert, plus 200. They just completed the 5th set, tied 6-6. 4 hours and 5 minutes. Paire, it's a major, so they're not going to tiebreaker here. They're going to play it out and see who can win consecutive sets here. Paire wins and is up 7-6. But Herbert now has a chance to tie it up at 7-7. So they're going to keep going. This might be a marathon. I think there's rules in place now that it can't go on forever, that eventually will go to a tiebreaker.
That's bullshit,
format,
by the way. I like it when it goes on forever.
Yeah, I think they're going to play maybe till 9, and then from there are rules, but I don't know. I'll have to.
It's a battle of wills, Bobby. I like a battle of wills better than a battle of skills.
Yeah, this has been amazing. Paire won the first 2 sets, 6-2, 6-2. And then Herbert comes back, goes 7-5, 7-6. And now is down 7-6. And he needs to win to tie this up. All right, Mike.
All righty, Bobby. I want to remind everybody, the handicapping guide, Phil, make sure you check him out. You can go halfway down the gruelingtruth.com page on the right, click on the banner. You can also click on the mybookie.ag banner, top of the gruelingtruth.com page to get a bonus there. And, of course, the Sheridan Report, at Sheridan Report on Twitter, the SheridanReport.com on the internet. And we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up tomorrow. We have a big day. We have Game 1 as the Golden State Warriors will battle Lucas Weiss's Toronto Raptors. Think about that. The Toronto Raptors are in the NBA Finals. Who would have thought that would ever happen in their lifetime?
Yeah, well, hey, they got a team that can do it. And obviously, Marc Gasol.
I'm just trying to give Lucas goosebumps if he's listening.
Hey, Mike, real quick. Saturday, June 8th, which is next Saturday, right? Not this one coming up, but the next one. Yeah. That's Belmont. So we're going to get Phil and Vince on again, right? We'll do a Belmont preview like we did the
Yes, we
Preakness and
will.
Kentucky Derby.
We
Okay,
most
great.
definitely will.
Yeah, I'll talk to Phil next week and hopefully get that going. And I know the fans have enjoyed those previews. So yeah, Belmont is the next Saturday.
All right, Bobby. And I want to remind everybody tonight at 11 o'clock Eastern, you can hear Inside Boxing Daily. And if you like boxing, we've got other stuff for you. Tonight at 9 o'clock, you can watch the classic original broadcast of the closed-circuit version of Muhammad Ali versus Ken Norton, the third fight. The quality is absolutely perfect. It's got the ring entrances, everything there. You can check that out on the Grueling Truth Facebook page at 9 o'clock. At midnight tonight, we will have Clint Jackson versus Frank the Animal Fletcher, which was one of the best fights of the entire decade of the 1980s. And then also, I'm in process of putting up a game that will be up tonight at 8 o'clock. It is the 1969 Notre Dame versus Pittsburgh game. It is the game film with the audio merged so you can actually watch the game. I think that was Joe Theismann at quarterback in 1969. So make sure you check that out. Go like the Grueling Truth Facebook page because we will have more and more videos no matter what sport you like. It'll be up there. I might even throw up an old Kentucky Derby or a Preakness for Bobby. But we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up tonight. And I want to thank everybody for listening. Remember, Survive in Advance sometime around 6 today, 5 or 6, whenever Risley gets to it. That's it. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Bobby Sheridan, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.